Hello, Lacey.
Hello,
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah. Welcome to the Global Virtual Summit 2025, Lacey. And before proceeding with your session, I want to introduce you to our audience. Lacey is a passionately playful speaker, event host, performer, and creative producer. She is late diagnosed autistic ADHD and has blossomed into a dynamic and engaging presence at any event. Lacey has a unique distinction of being an accountant turned performer, thanks in part to improved classes at Second City Toronto. Lacey founded Artemix Events, hosts the Hat Collecting podcast, and does video production as Artemis Media Productions. That was an interesting bio, Lacey, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you. Okay, let's get this going here. So, yes, I'm Lacey Artemis, and I'm here to tell a story today because I do so many things. I do too many things. That's how we got here. If you're not in the hospital, you need to be here, a burnout story. I'm going to show you two pictures quickly to kind of set this all up. So, here on the left, you see a picture. Looks like I'm feeling pretty good, right? I'm looking cute. I'm looking confident, comfortable. It's actually one of my favorite pictures of myself ever taken. But that picture was taken while I was in a really bad relationship that very shortly after that ended, and it was emotionally devastating. It was a very bad time, but I still managed to, find a moment to look good. 3.5 years later, I was giving a talk at Generation Women, and again, same thing. This video is online. You can watch it. You can listen to it. I sounded great. I had energy. I was engaging. Got lots of applause. But 4 days after this talk that I gave, I was in the hospital from extreme stress. How did I get there? Well, a long time ago. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. So I went to school originally for design, but didn't seem a viable career path. So I ended up going into a safe career as an accountant and bookkeeper. So I ended up being, like many of us are, forced to squeeze my fulfillment into my spare time, which was obviously very limited. I knew that I was capable of a lot more, but I wasn't being given a chance at work. I wasn't being given a chance outside of work. The only opportunities I had were the ones that I gave myself, essentially. So that was then in between. So I started to live this double life because I wasn't happy with my job. And so I had to find fulfillment and relief elsewhere. And so I was living this double life, hustle, hustle, hustle. And I was trying to build something that would make me happy and that would make me fulfilled. So this gives away a little bit of the ending here, but so I am autistic and ADHD, and also part of the LGBTQ community. Artist, entrepreneur, coach. I wear so many hats, and they're always juggling. And I'm a playful speaker and event host. I basically help overworked adults recharge and reconnect through creativity and playfulness. I've earned myself a lovely inspirational speaker certification there. So people probably ask you at some point, like, what makes you happy? What does it take? And that leads us to the question, what does it take to be happy? And for a lot of us, happiness is not a thing you are. It's a state of being. Like, you do things that you enjoy and you feel happy, so you're in a state of happiness, but you can't be happy necessarily. But what does it take to have that state of feeling happy more consistent, and hopefully not a small fraction of your life? Working too much is definitely not one of them. But we are in this loneliness epidemic, and this has been a thing for years. This was a study done almost 2 years ago. It's specific to Canada, but this is certainly not like limited to Canada. This is a global thing, I'm sure, many, many countries. We work too much. That makes us tired, and it makes us lonely because you're working too much. You don't get to see your friends or family as much. You don't get as much time for your hobbies. And when you don't get to do the things that like refill you, it drains you. You need things to refill you, and working often is not a thing that refills us. So again, how did we get here? Well, I was working in the television industry most recently, and if you're not familiar, the film and television industry is longer work weeks, longer hour days, and it's very intense, stressful work. Like, you make some really great, amazing, inspirational stuff out of it, but it's not for the faint of heart. And again, I was trying to sort of build up this new career on the side. And for years, I wasn't really sure what that other career was, what it should be, because I'm this multi-passionate person. So a lot of things appeal to me, but I needed something that was viable and that I could lock into. So while I was working this really intense job and trying to build some kind of new career, sacrificing my sleep for personal goals, because that's what you have to do as an entrepreneur, and I was dealing with a very excessive workload at my job, which I was not the only one. The company that I was working for was very short-staffed, too few people and too much work. And so it was a matter of, even if I asked for help, there was none available because everybody else was kind of overloaded too. And I was also in it. This was an environment that was very neurodivergent unfriendly, so that further served to drain me and tax my system. I was getting headaches and migraines pretty regularly and kind of got chronically sick. And what ended up happening was, at one point I was sick, and I was like, I need to, go rest for a couple of days. And I was basically told, like, you can't be sick, like, unless you're in the hospital or you're a biohazard, like, vomiting or diarrhea or something like that, you have to be here because there's no one else to do your work. And so I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, and then I broke and I ended up in the hospital because my body started to shut down by force. So I ended up, after I went to the hospital, I went to my doctor. I said, I need a note for medical leave because my work will not, they won't let me get the rest that I need unless a medical professional tells them that I need it. Like, they won't listen to me. My opinion's not good enough, which is really unfortunate. But they pushed back even with the doctor's note, and they wanted me to just, it was like, we'll find a replacement, but it can't happen overnight, so we still need you. And I was trying to negotiate just like 1 day a week off, like that'll help. And they didn't even want to do that. The president of the company caught wind of this, realized that there was a legal liability involved there. If I had a heart attack or something else happened, they could be liable for that. So he stepped in and he said, doctor said you go home, you go home. And it took me 7 full days of dedicated rest before I felt human again. And when I say that, I mean, like, when you're truly burnt out, you don't just like sleep in 1 day or 2 days and then you're like, okay, I feel recharged, I feel rejuvenated. No, this was dedicated rest. I was able to spend more time into the things that supposedly, refilled me, but my body had just been so strained and so stressed and so overdriven that it took that long for it to calm back down to a stasis point. So why do we push ourselves this hard? I'm sure a lot of you know the answer to that, because we have to pay bills, we're trying to find fulfillment, we're trying to build a life that we want. Life is less affordable than it's ever been, and this is not getting better. And it's getting worse if you're a single individual, if you don't have someone to kind of share finances with. We have this grind set culture, which is kind of born out of, like, Silicon Valley and the finance world, which is really unfortunate, but it's just, again, the hustle, hustle, hustle. If you're not constantly exhausted, you're not trying hard enough. And again, both in Canada and in the United States and other countries, there's minimal or no paid sick leave because capitalism demands that we just are constantly productive. So, and of course, there's been increased illnesses since COVID, which I'm going to touch on here briefly. If you don't know this, COVID is not over. And there have been studies that have shown that COVID-19 actually damages our immune system similarly to the way that HIV does. And this makes us more susceptible to lower level maladies. Like, people who have advanced HIV can get a cold and that can kill them, or they can get a paper cut and it gets infected and that kills them because their immune system just is gone, it's wrecked. COVID is causing a similar thing. And so repeated infections accumulate, and this leads to lingering effects like chronic fatigue, brain fog, and other things. So I got a couple of screenshots here to sort of explain. It's the CD8 plus T cell response, which are immune cells in our body. And they're showing long-term damage in people that have gotten COVID. So we'll get into some numbers here. So the monthly cost of living for an individual with no dependents, these numbers are coming from specifically the province of Ontario in Canada, but this is obviously, the numbers are going to be similar or worse in a lot of other places. But the monthly average cost of living is, or median cost, pardon me, is approximately $3,500, but the median take-home pay, monthly take-home pay for this same group is $3,600. And it's not hard to do that math. There's very, very little difference between those numbers. So what does that mean? It means that your cost just to live and to exist and to survive is basically on par with what you're making from working full time. And you can't really save. You can't really, you can't save, you can't get ahead, and any kind of sudden expenses are just going to set you back. So this necessitates us working overtime or a second job. Again, if we're not able to pool finances with another person, which not everybody is able to. So a lot of people in my generation, millennials, have had to move back with family, with parents, because we just couldn't afford to live on our own. And it shouldn't be like this. But unlike my parents' generation, the baby boomers, they could work at one company their entire career and then retire with a pension. That's not a thing anymore. Companies expect us to be loyal to them, but they don't reciprocate that loyalty. And again, inflation has been on the rise and it's outpacing incomes. And that is also a problem. Everything gets more expensive and we're not keeping up with our earnings, so we're falling behind. And again, having to work too much, have overtime, second jobs, having other commitments, leads us to unhealthy coping habits. That can be getting less sleep, that can be getting less exercise, not eating as well, substance use. There's many different ways that can happen. But also what it takes to build your own business. I just realized you can see the whole screen. Sorry. That's, again, really a lot of work. And then you have to make it your own time for self-care, which, again, a lot of us are not as good at doing, because you have to carve out that time for yourself. And we're always treading water. So have some stats here. Yes, it's big, scary red letters, but don't worry. I got some good news at the end, because it's not all doom and gloom. But here are some stats. This year, 2025, 76%, so 3/4 of employees experience burnout at least occasionally. So that's the more than the majority, well more than the majority of working people are experiencing burnout at least occasionally. It's kind of become a state of being for most. And my generation, the millennials, 84%, report experiencing burnout in their current role. Like, I don't remember the last 9-to-5 job that I had that didn't make me feel burnt out. And I was having naps at lunchtime because it was so draining. And in 2025, 1 in 3 workers have a side hustle to help make ends meet. 37% say, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. 1/3 of workers have a side hustle, and sometimes that, it's often to help make ends meet. Sometimes you're lucky it's work that you choose to do, like you're building your own business, and other times it might be Uber, delivering food, or driving Uber. Again, a little over 1/3 cite overwhelming burnout or overwhelming workload as the primary cause of burnout. That was my experience. That has been the experience of a lot of my friends. And 1/4 of people surveyed said that they are dealing with their burnout alone, which is awful, because that's not a thing that you should go through. We need each other. We need people to help us get through tough times. Toxic work environments. I can't see anybody's hands. I was going to say raise your hand if you've ever been in a toxic work environment, but I'm pretty sure most of you are going to raise your hands. And it's a leading cause of burnout, because having some toxic presences in my childhood, that was a thing. It's a real thing. And over 80% burnout rate in these agriculture, finance, insurance, and telecom. It's serious. Now, a few more stats here still coming. 43% of women, so almost half of women in leadership, report burnout versus only about 1/3 of men. Women do emotional labor that men often don't have to do, so that makes sense. It shouldn't be that way, but and then again, almost half of women leaders say that their DEI work isn't acknowledged at all in performance reviews. And I'm sure any of the women out there, we know that any human being, if you're putting in this work and something, especially if it matters to you, but if it doesn't, if you're just being forced to do it and they're still not recognizing your efforts, that's going to be very demotivating and deflating. It's so a little bit more here. employees experiencing burnout are 2.5 times more likely to seek another job. Again, this doesn't surprise, because you don't want to be in a job that is overtaxing you. And I've been this place too. Usually there's reasons you might stay at a job, but there's a quote that people don't quit bad jobs, they quit bad managers. So, toxic work environment, too much work and no support, something's got to give. And stress drives unhealthy coping mechanisms, which I noted on a previous slide. And ultimately, it's economic. Burnout leads to a global loss of nearly $1/3 of $1 trillion annually. So there's incentive there to do something about it. But like I said, there's some good news. This is our palate cleanser here. We can all imagine ourselves, take a deep breath. Just we're into a safer space now. So a few things here. Flexible work policies reduce burnout by 22%, almost a quarter. Again, that makes sense. Being able to work from home or being able to have flexible hybrid, things like that, it helps. It reduces the strain. Employees with supportive leadership, sorry, that text is a little later than I thought it was, but supportive leadership leads to 70% less likely to experience burnout. Again, you're being supported, it helps, it reduces the strain. And again, 4-day work week, which is being trialed in, I think, the UK right now, working 4 days, 10 hours a day, as opposed to 5 days, 8 hours. That extra day, even if you're working a little bit more for 4 days, those 3 days, like a lot of us, I've talked to a lot of people, I've said, you get to the weekend and the first day, Saturday, you're trying to just catch up on errands and other things that you have to deal with. And then Sunday, that's when you actually get to kind of, if you're lucky, just chill. And then just as you're starting to feel maybe a little bit recovered, right back into it. So we need to adjust this for sure. So things are good for you, obviously. Making time for creativity and playfulness helps restore us. You don't even have to consider yourself an artist, but doing creative and playful things. Because you think back to when you were a child, when you were playing in the playground, we didn't have responsibilities and obligations. It was just about like exercise, socializing, creativity, fun. All those things are very nourishing. And once we grow up and we get into the working world, a lot of that stuff is taken away or really suppressed. So don't forget to create or play just for fun. The play there is a little hard to read, I'm noticing. Because oftentimes people, like, I have a lot of friends who are artists, and they think if I'm not making money from this, and I used to think this way too, like if I'm not making money from this, why am I doing it? Like, what's the point? Because we've been so conditioned that if you're not doing something for money, it's not worth doing, because everything is about money, because life is so expensive. But if it wasn't, if it was more affordable, what would we do more of? We would probably do more creativity, playfulness, like reading, socializing, like all that stuff. And of course, art and games are a great way to connect and bond with others, with your friends. There's a picture of me being silly because I run playfulness workshops, and I'm a playful person in general. So how to recover? Well, as I've been heard, I got this little diagram here for you. I heard it said, we should rest when we're at about 50%, not when we're at 10%. Like, as I've said already, you don't want to wait until your battery is dead. Now, obviously, I want to acknowledge humans are not lithium-ion batteries. We are not. It's not the exact same thing, but there is a similar parallel in that if you have a phone or a tablet or a computer or like laptop, something with a battery in it, if you discharge it to 0% and recharge it to 100%, you keep doing that, it wears out the battery and it eventually doesn't hold as much charge and it gets less and less effective, and eventually it'll never be as good again. Now, that's not completely the same for humans, but a similar thing. If you keep pushing yourself into burnout, you never fully recharge, or you just keep yourself kind of in the red and orange zone and you never actually let yourself fully recharge, you're going to lose some of that. And in the film industry, they talk about it. It's such a stressful line of work that people have like heart attacks in film if they're in it for long enough, because it's just constant stress and it's not good for our system. So we should not be subjecting ourselves to that. Set boundaries to protect your energy. And if this is not something that's possible at your current job, then I'd strongly suggest you change, you find an alternative. because if you're in my situation, as I said, I was like, I was sick, I am tired, I was in the hospital, and they still didn't want to give me time off. They didn't want to give me relief. And that just says it right there. It's like they want to take every last ounce out of you, and you can't let that happen. Prioritize sleep, healthy eating, exercise, anything like that, because sleep is how your body truly repairs and recovers. Sacrificing sleep is one of the worst things. Healthy eating if you can. This is one of the other unfortunate problems, because we're in such a place now that if you're super busy and you're super tired, you don't want to cook, you may not have time to cook, you're going to get takeout, or you're going to get DoorDash, Uber Eats, whatever it is. So you're going to be spending more money, you're going to be getting worse quality food, and it's just not, it's not good. You don't want to do that. Seek professional support. This can be in the form of like therapist, maybe a personal trainer, if you can afford that. Just even, I say professional support in general, but professional support is really obviously ideal. And then make time to play and make art and spend time with people that you care about, because it is so crucial. It comes down to betting big on yourself. So it's been a long time. I was chasing my dream to show that it's still possible. It's not easy, but it is possible. And I've had to burn out a few times, but I've gotten so much further than I ever thought that I would. And I'm much better at pacing myself now. And I became a speaker because our voice is our strongest tool. And for me, growing up, I was very awkward and shy, and I was not a good speaker. And it became to the point where I realized that I needed to develop that skill. And since I have, it has changed my life. And this is part of why I became a coach, because I've gone through so much change and learning and growth and making things better for myself. And everybody deserves that. Like, I want everybody to have a happy, healthy life if they can. So that's why I developed Shine Language. So again, no one cheerleaded me as much as I did for myself. For much of my life, I had this feeling, and I was going towards it, and people didn't believe me, or they say like, "Oh, you sure about that? Like, you can't do that. Like, you're doing too much." And I just had to listen to my driving force inside. And this is where it got me here. I learned to cheer for myself, and I want that for you too. So again, I know I can't hear you, I can't see you, but I want you to say it with me. I deserve to shine. And so with that, Shine Language, there's a QR code here to sign up for my newsletter. And you can I'll help you find your Shine Language. You can glow up into a happier life. I'm at Lacey Artemis on all the socials. There's my website and my email address, and I'm on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect. I'd love to talk more with you. And with that, I will happily take questions. Okay. Thing here. All right, I'll do that. Sorry. Oh dear. My slides were not changing. Okay. I was not paying attention to the chat as I was paying attention to the slides on my end. So apologies for that. Do you have any questions? Oh, yep. Finished a little bit early, which is probably good. Apologies for that. I didn't know how to check it on my own end. I assumed everything would be fine, but alas.
Yes, Tracy, that was really a fantastic and energetic talk. Your journey is really inspiring. And we got a few questions from our audience, Lacey. I want to ask you one of them. How do you burn out like you and survive to tell the story?
Well, I guess I'd say that I got lucky because I ended up in the hospital and I came out and I was I was able to get that doctor's note and get that. As if I hadn't, then they would have kept pushing me and I probably would have ended up in the hospital for even longer. And obviously that, and I recently had a bit of a scare because I got sick recently, and for a couple of weeks I was experiencing extreme chronic fatigue and I couldn't do anything, and it was scary. And so I've learned, like, I've pushed my body a lot and I have to slow down, and I'm getting better with that. It's just critical. We can't keep pushing ourselves like this.
Thank you for sharing everything, and you are really inspiration to many people. And I think there is a technical glitch, but no issue. Your content was reached to everyone. Yes. Thank you so much for your valuable time. And be on the backstage and please join our next session, Lacey.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much. Bye bye.